Welcome to the Big Screen Symposium 2018 podcast. The Big Screen Symposium took place in Auckland on the 26th and 27th of October. Please note, while many of the speakers used clips in their sessions, we've edited these out to better suit the podcast. Being funny is a seriously tricky business, even if you're a natural. In this session, some of New Zealand's top comedic writing talent explore what makes their characters funny and how they've successfully taken New Zealand comedy to the world. Listen to Jackie Van Beek, Madeline Sami, Paul Yates and Melanie Bracewell chat with Alice Snedden about how they crafted the laughs.
Hey guys, welcome along to the comedy panel. This session is called No Laugh Track Needed, and we were just talking backstage about how much pressure that puts on these guys, but not me. I am just here to moderate. My name is Alice Snedden. Before we get started, just want to say a big thank you to the Department of Post for sponsoring this event. Yes, give them a round of applause.
We like
The
those
old
guys.
DOP.
God, I
as
was
I
so
call
nervous
it.
that I was going to forget that, but now we've done that. So thanks to the Department of Post.
move that.
Thanks for coming along. I'm going to introduce the guests to my right here. You're probably familiar with them all anyway. And if you're not, this is a huge moment for you. And for you guys as well. Great for your profile. So to my right, we've got Madeline here. Madeline with Jackie. And they are the director, actor, writer duo behind Breaker Upperers. Should I do last names, do you think?
Yeah, we could say our own.
Okay, yeah, sure. Do you want Madeline's Sami? Yeah, Jackie Van Beek.
Van Beek.
Yeah, sorry. I just was worried that you wouldn't get it right. And then down the end there we've got Mel Bracewell and Paul Yates, and they are two of the team behind Wellington Paranormal.
Woo!
So we have the perfect team here.
Isn't it nice to see the white middle-aged guy in a minority for once? Hopefully next year people like me will be eradicated.
Paul, no.
It's not too late for
No,
you to.
from
I
your
can go
lips to
now.
God's ears. Great, so the structure of today is going to be, we're going to see some clips from these guys' shows, and then we're going to have a chat about them, and then at the end we're going to do audience questions. So I encourage you to kind of think about those throughout your time here, so that when the time comes, you're not, panicked.
Silent.
Did that make everyone feel comfortable? That felt good, right?
I felt like no one was panicked until you said panicked.
Yeah. The most important thing is don't freak out. Just stay calm and we'll all be okay. So we're going to start, first of all, with, let's roll our first clip. This is from Wellington Paranormal. Mel, do you want to set this up?
Yes, so this is, it happens in every episode of Wellington Paranormal. There's often a police briefing scene with our two cops and Maka, the Sarge, to explain what the paranormal thing was. And this is from my episode. It's called Cop Circles. Cool. It's not mentioned at all. It's not even in the credits, but it's written on the script. It's called Cop Circles.
And we knew it.
Yeah, we were like, that's such a great name, and no one knows that that's the name.
Well, there are another 200 people here now who can spread
Thank
the
you,
word.
spread the word.
Passing them
So
down.
let's roll the first clip. Basically, my first question I'm going to put to you guys is, what was the process like of writing Wellington Paranormal? Because I know you all went away, didn't you, on like a retreat, the storyline. Is that right?
We got to stay at a fancy house, and it was lovely. We stayed in Martinborough, and we just got up in the morning and ate a lot of food, and just sort of sat down and went, oh, werewolves. What
pretty
else?
funny.
What happens? And then we're like, oh yeah, and then what happens?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
All right, what about after that? It's kind of about the process, I guess.
all right, and that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us. So how many of you were involved in that session, and did
So
that
in
include
that
Jermaine? And
In that session, Jermaine wasn't present at that session because he's overseas all the time, being famous and doing his stuff. So there were 5 people at the writers' retreat. And we just found it a good way just to get away from the city and just be somewhere a bit quieter. And so it was just 5 comedy writers around a table just jamming out ideas. And it was that simple. And we found that was just just a great way to get our stories together. Everyone came with ideas.
Right.
We sat down, everyone hashed them out. So everyone had a kind of a writing credit in the story for every episode because everyone contributed stuff to it, and then we just apportion out the episodes.
Yeah,
So-
and we sort of like sent what we had come up with to Jermaine, like via the internet. Like we weren't allowed to look him in
I've
the
heard
eye.
about that.
Yeah, couldn't look him in the eye.
Any sort of actual contact with him
No.
was actually
Yeah. In fact,
forbidden.
he doesn't actually exist.
Yeah, he's
He's
not
just
a
an
real
avatar.
guy. Yeah.
So the outcome of that writing session as a group, did you have very specific goals in mind for that? So at the end of this, we need storylines for 6 episodes or...
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
We already had one that I'd written with Jermaine, and so we really needed 5 more episodes. So we just spent a week, and we literally spent a day on each episode just hashing through the story. We had basic ideas that we'd chosen. So the alien episode just came out of the germ of an idea that what if there was a picture of a cow up a tree?
Okay.
And it started from that. That was it. And we came up with this crazy story with these insane aliens. And what I love about the writing process, you come up with these crazy ideas, and then as a producer, you know that in 3 months' time, you're going to be sitting in a field trying to make rubber aliens look vaguely animated and funny.
The thing that I didn't realise while writing it, I had a lot of sort of crop circle things that there's like corn and stuff, and then when they went to film it, corn wasn't in season, so they had to like get artificial corn, and I was like, oh man, I'm so powerful.
Yeah. We sat down at the first production meeting, and I'm like, so corn's in season, right? And they were like, no, it's like that tall, which is not very scary for people to run down rows of corn that's like a foot high. So our art department, our art director, Ra Vincent, said, I know a guy.
Ra knows
And
everyone.
yeah, so they went to Weta, and apparently Weta just had a container load of cornrows, just as you
Not
do.
here,
Yeah,
not
of
corn
course.
rows.
No, not
but that
those
was-
cornrows.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's
Rows
pretty
of
cool.
corn.
Contain a load of cornrows. We use that for our movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we both had. There's a thematic similarity there.
Yeah, there is.
definitely.
absolutely.
But no, they had 60,000 ears of artificial corn. So our first day of pre-production, or just before we started shooting, was building a cornfield in the middle of an actual field. And the farmer was like, "You do know it can grow, don't you? You just don't have that time."
It's not half as funny if it grows. Hey, so Mel, in your experience, so you took away the storylined episode, so it was beat out for you already
Yeah.
as a group. And how detailed is that plan? Like, is there much room for you to move as a writer within that?
I
or-
think our job and what I think my strength is like writing jokes. So like we had ideas for things, but like especially a scene like that, which is just in a room, it's just them in a tiny little room. There's not a crazy thing happening. You just literally have to make the dialogue as funny as possible
Yeah.
and get as many like laughs per minute, basically. You will notice there was a lot of padding for time at the top of that scene. Fill some pages.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it was just like make sure that every couple of lines there's something like funny.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like, whoa, but that's how we all laugh, right?
I heard it every couple of lines.
Yeah, great. So yeah, it was just like looking through and going, oh, is this funny? And is there like small gaps between the funny parts, basically?
Yeah. And I know you. So you're a stand-up comedian. I should have said that. So you spent a
really
lot.
should have.
Yeah, I know.
Award-winning?
Award-winning. Yeah, an award-winning
Nice.
stand-up comedian. So you've spent a lot of time on stage, and obviously when you're on stage, you know if a joke is funny because the audience laugh or they boo. That's how it works, right? In
I've
my
been to a few of your
experience.
gigs, yeah.
At my gigs, they laugh or they boo. And that's how I know. But when you're writing it, what's your like barometer for understanding it? Is it just instinct or?
Yeah, I think a little bit of that. There is a lot of guesswork as well. You're sometimes writing something and you're like, am I insane? Is this actually funny? But it's, yeah, we did develop a few sort of joke ideas in the writer's room. Because we started with the cow in the tree thing. The kind of a funny way for these characters is how they explain the paranormal thing away. So
Yeah.
first you think it's Karen sort of has a logical explanation, which is not that logical, that kids are putting cows in trees via forklift or whatever. And I thought it'd be funny that Mike would assume that over a period of years a tree would grow. It's like it has to make sense like on a very surface level, and it can't be too dumb. But
Yeah.
we found that
It's
was
pretty
kind of
dumb.
the perfect. It's pretty dumb.
Pretty dumb.
But there is still a line of too dumb, I think.
There's a logic to it.
Yeah, there's always a logic to how he thinks. So that's what you had to sort of consider as well. So there was it was a good show in the sense that there are like quite a rules to the characters, which made it easier to write. Of like the arching gag of the show is that it's cops seeing very insane things, but reacting in a very sort of muted cop way of like, you see here that certainly this isn't expected, like they kind of just talk the way normal Kiwis react to things. We're not going, oh wow, good.
Yeah.
I would love-
meet
That's how
another
Americans
human.
are,
Oh.
That's American.
Americans are so like that, man.
That's
Wow.
Oh my God.
It's American.
And all their
comedy.
Yeah,
movies,
it's American
yeah.
comedy.
Yeah.
Every
American
Do you
comedy.
guys do that as well in your work? Do you kind of devise a series of rules for the characters that you work through, or is that how you would explain it?
You're like, no, Melanie's wrong.
I mean, I think you just kind of have, like certainly in our film for like Jordan, the Jordan character who's our sort of beautiful, naive idiot. There are definitely things that he could probably get away with the most, which is kind of the Mike Minogue thing, like, because he, and it is also down to the actor as well to sell the really stupid thing you've written for them to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there are certainly characters that have those rules about them. And Jackie and I, when we were writing the script, would often, we'd do a draft on the script ourselves, and then give it to the other person, and then rewrite some of the dialogue that we might have written for their character, just because we couldn't imagine because we knew that we were acting it as well.
Right, okay.
And we, and we'd sort of go back and forth like that, eh? But yeah.
We had kind of stock rules for, the Mel and Jen character. Just really simple things that we both knew, like Mel might suggest something, Jen would always shut it down.
Yeah.
Jen would suggest something, Mel might query it, Jen would do it anyway. I guess like status games.
Yeah,
and
we
things
worked a lot in status, with characters. Or that's sort of where we start with, and especially with the whole kind of idea of what we were doing with it being a kind of bromance / buddy comedy. There's always got to be a low and a high status for it to kind of feel interesting. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely. Well, let's watch a clip from the Breaker Uppers. When do you guys want to set this up? It's the montage.
Oh, yes, I've got a good one. This is the opening
You still
montage.
have a microphone when you do this.
It's the montage.
Yeah.
I've got a good way of
montage,
explaining
everybody.
this.
It's
It's
a
the
sta-
montage, the opening one.
Yeah, after the first scene, I think, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to get
We
into
all gonna
my
kneel
This
again?
is us.
Can we
Can you guys
this is-
see past
this
us?
is-
I feel like we're praying at the film.
Settle down. All right, let's play the second clip. This is from the Breaker Uppers, and it's a montage. So that montage there, obviously you had some of that on. You had that on script. You had that on the page, but then
Yep.
you're also working with, possibly every New Zealand comedic actor.
Yeah.
who was available that Tuesday morning.
Yeah, we literally, had to ring people the night before and we're like, "Can you come in for 15 minutes?"
Is that true?
Yeah,
Well, a
little
lot
bit.
of the people that appear, we had about 15 minutes. We had a few scripted things that we wanted them to do. We had a song, we made them all do a song, a poem, and do their own interpretation of this thing that we provided. And then we had about 5 minutes to improv with them, and then it was like, "You're out of there." We set a shot up. This is how quick we had to make.
Because we
make
wanted
it.
to get as many people in as possible.
Yeah.
So Ainsley Gardner, one of our producers, was like, basically if you want that many people, it's got to be 15 minutes. And they were just like rotating
just
around. So.
Lock
Yeah.
off that shot. and
We
just
did.
like-
We literally locked
Yeah.
off the shot. Jackie and I sat behind directing and sort of being our characters at
And
the same time.
responding. Yeah. So, say this, or what about
Yeah.
this? Say
Oh, this would be funny.
Yeah, say that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was quite manic, but
And
quite fun.
sorry, so you said you told them you came in with a poem and a song?
Yeah, we
Give
sort of
them-
wanted to give them something to kind of start from. So we kind of had this idea that, as a service, we might provide a poem that they could read to the person. For
Right,
$20,
okay.
that could be something that they could do, or a song that they could sing the person. Or
None of those things made the edit.
none of those things-
All of that prep they did. I think there's one in the end. I think Kura does a kind of poem.
Oh yeah, could have
I think that's the only one that.
Yeah, yeah. So,
So what we saw up there in terms of like what they delivered down the camera, was any of that dialogue scripted, or was that all just kind of like story beated? Here is where we're going to do a montage of a bunch of people wanting to break up.
a few lines were scripted, like Madeline said, but then often the actors were just improvising, or Madeline and I would feed them lines. What about this? What about this?
The scenarios were all scripted, and then within that we would play around.
And is that how you worked throughout the rest of the film as well? And that you kind of had like an idea and a plan for the scene, and then within that you'd play?
Yeah, pretty much. There were some scenes that were sort of tighter than others and worked better as just the script, and then other ones where we kind of needed to open it up and just kind of, and then other ones that just went crazy.
Just improv,
So how do you manage that as director? So obviously you're directing it and you're in it, and then you've got what's on the page, but then lots of stuff comes up and happens in the moment. So how are you keeping track during the whole process of what you want to, use, what you think you'll use in a final cut of that? Have you got people on set who are taking notes, or are you jotting it down, or do you watch all the takes back when you come to the edit? How does that work?
Well, I mean, we wrote the script, which was really helpful. So we knew it. So, we'd written it over 5 years together. So for us, when we were in...
Wow.
On
It
and
takes a long
off.
time to write a script.
The whole time.
On
we
and
were all
off.
doing other stuff.
I made a
I
movie,
was
you
working
did
on
some
some
stuff.
It's hard to imagine that
takes a long
follow-through,
time.
It takes a long time, man. Come on.
guys know that.
You guys see them at the Oscars. They're like, oh, man, this has been 15 years. I understand that now.
Yeah.
Just a
It
small
take a long
portion of that,
time.
yeah.
But so we knew, like, we were very clear going in what the story beats were for each scene that we had to cover off. And we also said to Ainsley, who's also a writer-director, make sure if we start improving, or directing other actors to do a lot of improv, make sure that we're not moving on before we've got to get the story beat, otherwise we're doing pickups.
It was most dangerous when the two of us were in a scene. Because if we were, if it was
calls
late
cut?
in the day, if we were tired,
Ainsley.
Ainsley would call cut. Ainsley would just be sitting,
Just looking at it.
just like, come on.
It's
they
been
are
15
chewing up.
years.
They're chewing up.
And I'm going to be like, I've got one more joke.
Yeah. We
None
just
of it
wouldn't
made the
call
edit.
cut. I mean,
None of it made the
it's
edit.
kind of a sneaky way of actually getting a lot of options in when you're on a tight shooting schedule and your producer's right there. You just don't call cut, and you get a lot of options in the edit.
Oh, yeah, that's good to know. Everyone note that down, except for the producers who
Make
should
yourself
look
a
out
director.
for that.
Don't call cut.
And did you do that a lot on Wellington Paranormal? I know, Jackie, you were a director of some of those episodes as well. So did that happen a lot, that sometimes you'd veer off the script? And
Yeah, so we had really solid, funny scripts. But one of the reasons I was told that I was brought on was because of my, background in improv and things. And so that's right. So we'd shoot the script generally, and then
And we'd throw it on the ground.
then
like
we'd just
that.
throw it on the ground, and then we'd say, "Throw away that rubbish." No. No, we always knew it would be a blend of the script and improv.
Yeah, definitely.
That was kind of part of the brief, really. And so then, depending on how much time we had, we'd just do as much improv as possible. And knowing those character games and statuses and the things that Karen and Mike, what's relevant and what's not. What's not
Totally.
going to make the edit. They have to be still themselves. But they're just, the two of them are just such brilliant improvisers.
So
They got to
funny.
know their characters really quickly.
Yeah.
And so they would just go straight into it. And you could just, as Jackie was saying, first 2 takes with a script, and then we just riff, and
Go
they would
from
riff.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all you need to know is the thing you're looking for is over there, and that's like the one piece of dialogue that they really need.
Yeah,
and
just
then
build
the
to
rest
that.
of it's
Anything.
just like, oh, whatever.
And so, from your perspective, Mel, so you would kind of hand in a script, you'd get notes back, and that would be your final product, and then you'd hand that over to Jackie or Jermaine or whoever was directing the episode, and that would kind of be where you left it? Or were
Yeah,
you,
totally. I was a very tiny cameo in one of the episodes, so that was kind of my
Congrats.
only time. Thank you. Yeah, big brag. I was a goth in a graveyard, and that was quite cool because I felt quite distant from it at that point. It was like, oh, I've handed it in. I'll see it when it's done, basically. But that one night on set was like very fun. We were just up on a graveyard, and it was just the cops were just walking around, and then that was kind of what they did. They were like, oh, our role in that tiny role was to say, the guy you're looking for is over there. So that, me and Angela, who was in the scene, were just like, Angela's amazing, and she would just go completely nuts, and I would like have to give the information at some point. So that was kind of my experience. I got a little moment on set, but that was just pure coincidence. The rest of it was just like, here's the script, goodbye. And I watched it on TV, and I was like, because it had been so long, I like looked back at my script because I was like, that's a great joke. Did I write that joke? I did. That's great. So yeah, it was quite weird to be disconnected from it, but so cool to see it.
Mel's script stayed pretty close to what you wrote. There wasn't a lot of embellishing, which is really cool.
Thank you. I told him to mention that.
I think it was the same with our film in the end. Like we did a kind of count, or someone did a count of like what percentage of the film was still the written film, and it was still quite high.
It was still quite high, like surprisingly high, because we felt like we did a lot of improv, but I guess it just didn't make the cut. All that brilliant. I said, don't cut. I've got one more brilliant. Like, none of that made it.
Yeah, it's all options. It's all just having options.
A lot
in
of
the edit.
options.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of unnecessary options.
In terms of coming back to what you plan and what goes into before you get in front of the camera. So in that montage thing, I noticed that what I love is your office there, the aesthetic of like the wood paneling, and it's got this very like 70s porn vibe to it.
That was our brief to our art director, 70s porn Auckland, before we started shooting.
Sometimes I'm watching 70s porn and I think this is just like the Brazier Upper.
Honestly, some of the vintage stuff is great.
Brant Fraser was our production designer, and he was amazing. Like we said, we want it to be real world, but a bit heightened.
Yeah.
Because the premise is real, kind of heightened, and we tried to bring that down to the real world. A couple of women who break up couples for cash. And he did such a great job.
We didn't want it to look like the Auckland that we always see and stuff and ads. We didn't really we want to get away from villas and things like that. We wanted everything to look a little bit dated and interesting, So,
Yeah, I mean, I think you definitely accomplished that.
Thank you.
Because I thought it looked...
It looks really dated. Your film looks
really
dated.
No, but that is, I mean, I'm interested in that about how you conceive of like the visual side of it in terms of like elevating the comedy. What is important to you when you set up a frame in order to make sure that you're getting the best like pop from the comedy?
Because we had big discussions about this, of course, early on, with our cinematographer, our producers, even our distributors, and we all agreed it was going to be a performance-driven film.
Yeah.
And most people kind of thought that most of the laughs will come from the ridiculous kind of improv and scripted dialogue between the two of us. And so that kind of really dictated, how we'd... everything else kind of came from that. So it's a performance-driven film, so we're following performances. So the actors and the performances are very, very important, and then everything else needs to support that.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
a lot of people sort of suggested early on that we kind of make it as mobile as possible. So we have a lot of handheld look and all that. And Jackie and I really wanted to make it look nice and have a nice film that looked like a film, not like a lot of comedies that come out. Particularly out of America, that are shot quite fast, that are a lot of improvising. There's a lot of handheld, and doesn't feel like there's a lot of effort on that side of things. But Jackie and I both really wanted to feel like it was a film, and that we had a lot of width and
to make it accessible as well for people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very used to watching kind of doco style, and I love that, and I don't feel seasick. Whereas other people will watch that and they go, "What is this? This is crazy." For me, it feels very normal, but that's why we approached Jenny Lone, like one of New Zealand's best drama cinematographers, and we're like, "Do you want to do a comedy?" She's like, "Yeah." So it's always good to get like the high-end drama cinematographer and throw them into this.
Yeah, and then you sort of you just adjust it along the way, and you find something that's in between that sort of drama look and has a bit of the handheld, and sort of find our own style inside of that.
Was there those discussions as well on Wellington Paranormal, Paul?
Well, we were parodying cop reality. So if anything...
Is that right?
That's why it was so shaky.
I know. That was why he was doing this all the time. But no, DJ Stipson, our DOP, who's a genius, he shoots things amazingly well. And we had to say to him, can you just shoot things a bit shit? So both camera operators had a really sore arm by the end of it. So there was literally a lot of the cop feel to it. And sometimes it didn't look cop enough, and we'd have to shoot it again just to get a bad crash pan and make it look even shitter.
Yeah.
So ours was kind of a different experience in that we wanted it to feel very documentary kind of style.
Yeah, right.
So you're asking everyone to make it look shitter.
Make it look shitter.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We did have to do that. I remember DJ and I talking, and we'd lit something.
Yeah.
Maybe I can't remember, it was at the haunted house or something. And then we were like, shit, it it looks too nice.
It looks too
So
good.
like, you pull out that light, you know, it's like
Yeah, yeah.
everything, and then it's like, oh, that's better. Like really awful, really awful. But in the haunted house, we're allowed to do a little bit.
Yeah, it was
of
a little
nice,
bit of embellishment.
nice
but
stuff,
but
yeah.
sometimes, you'd be in a street and it would look just a bit average, and we had little street lights that we could put in just to kind of, and that was the only kind of embellishment we used in terms of cinematography.
And when you're not doing something where it's a direct parody of a kind of existing genre, where did you start those discussions about how you wanted it to look like? Like, where did the idea come from that you didn't want it to look like the Auckland we'd already seen or we're used to seeing? Was that from a kind of a comedic background, or is that a comedic sensibility, or is that just something that you just thought would be interesting on camera?
I think it's just like visually just wanted to set it apart from everything else we've seen. And, when we sat down with Ginny, we started talking about like the look of the film, and we had influences like the Coen brothers and things like that. We just kind of wanted to bring a sort of, we wanted to create a visual world that we hadn't seen on screen before, I guess. I feel like Taika always does it really well in his films, where it's a Taika, the Taika look, the look of his film, and that's his sort of signature. But it's also at the same time it's recognizable, but it's got some sort of other level to it. So I think that's where it came from.
Yeah, we looked at lots of reference material, going, like. I can't remember our main. Or
Coen Brothers was a big one. I think that was a big one for Ginny, and just like letting a lot of the action play out in wider shots.
Yeah, right.
Because the characters were so, like someone like Jordan in a frame like that, you can just watch him for ages, and everyone around him is kind of what the hell is going on. It sort of tells a story just in a frame, and so that was kind of where we were. Yeah.
We watched a lot of Police 10-7. Pretty much
So does the rest
Bible.
of New Zealand. Really popular show.
It is. Not as popular as what's it? Grandstand. Country Calendar.
Oh yeah, it's very
Yeah.
popular still,
Isn't
isn't
that the
it?
most popular show?
so, yeah.
One of,
Yeah.
shout out to
Fucking
Country
love
Calendar.
sheep, mate, love sheep.
All right,
Love it,
let's
CC.
check out our third clip. So this is from Wellington Paranormal. Do you want to set this up, Paul?
Yeah, so this is on the page, this is a pretty simple scene. It's the cops are chasing a possessed housewife, as you do. And there's the only kind of written dialogue in it is an interaction between Mike and a dog. And this is an example of something where the embellishment of production actually added to the scene. When I was starting off as a writer, I always used to be defensive against production changing everything. But as I've been doing it for a long time, you realise production always adds stuff and makes things better. And this was one where what was on the page was embellished by us doing a production recce and finding a great location and adding sort of stuff to it to make it funnier, in my mind anyway.
Yeah, great. All right, well, let's check it out. Walk us through what was actually on the page for what ended up on the screen there.
Pretty much, I looked at it last night just to remind myself, and it was just, they split up to chase the housewife. O'Leary gets caught on a fence, and then Minogue runs around a corner and finds a dog. That was pretty much the scene description, and from that became we went on a recce and we found this playground, the Avalon Playground in Lower Hutt, and it's just been built. It was brand new and stuff, and it's quite cool. We thought this would look really scary at night, so we just sort of smoked it up. And Jermaine thought it would be great if the housewife did a somersault over the top of. So that was one of those conversations between a director and a producer. Can we get a parkour guy to do a thing? And next week, and so yes, Jermaine, we can get a parkour person. So the housewife was replaced by a parkour man who did a somersault over the top of Jermaine, and that sort of happened. And then there's I did second unit on the dog. Because Jermaine said, Paul, I don't do dogs, so could you shoot the dog? And we didn't have we couldn't afford an animal trainer, and they normally cost a fortune anyway, and you never quite get what you want. So we just had one of our people in the office had a lovely dog called Basil, not Bazual, it was Basil, and I just spent about 5 hours trying to get the dog so it's a reverse shot, and then we did little special effects on the mouth. So that was just an example of what was a very simple shot became O'Leary getting stuck on the fence, somersault action, all that stuff that happened in production that was beyond what was on the page.
And once you kind of did that recce and you saw where you were going to be shooting it, did you then go to script up any of that stuff, or was it just we're going to find that on the day?
It was just on the day. So
Yeah.
I suggested the line, "Ma'am, you shouldn't be running in those Ugg boots." And Jermaine had the line about, I've just been in pursuit of a highly acrobatic housewife. So there were a lot of times when the situation you thought, oh shit, this would be a good line. And you've got, great improvisers in Karen and Mike, and Jermaine's a bit of a genius as well. So we'd come up with lines that would embellish the script, and were often better than what was on the page anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it is something that I've always been interested in about, like, when you see physical comedy on screen, how do you write that? Can you write that, or do you just be like, now this person has real trouble clumming a fence?
Well, we knew Karen could do something that would be funny.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't funny, then it wouldn't end up in the cut. We didn't sort of want to make O'Leary look stupid. And if anything, that's the one time in the whole series where she does something that, and she even gets in there, she even ad-libbed, this is actually something that's more likely to happen to Minogue. Which is great, a little sort of dig at him. But they had a relationship whereby some of the stuff that was written for them was she would, because she's the smart one and he's clearly the dumb one, that she would put him down.
Yeah.
And both of them sort of came to me and Jermaine and said, we kind of don't like that comedy. We like the fact that these two are like brother and sister. Even though Minogue thinks there might be some unwritten romance between them, clearly not getting that Karen was gay, they developed this bond that's like brother and sister. So they said, we're never going to put each other down. So they're always quite supportive of each other. And it's kind of a cop thing when you see those shows. They never go, oh, he's a bit of a dick, isn't he? Crikey.
Yeah, exactly.
They're always actually, my fellow officer proceeded on foot in a westerly manner. So we wanted to get that sort of vibe as well. And so that relationship was kind of sweet between them.
Yeah, it is lovely.
It was cool. It was the thing that I noticed when I wrote my first draft was like the main feedback I got was like, you need to make Karen funnier, because it's such a natural instinct to go, if she's the smarter one, she might be playing the straight man the whole time.
Yeah.
And she's playing the straight man and Mike does something dumb and she reacts the way a normal smarter person would do. But there are moments of her also being, she's not the most intelligent person in the world. She can still do dumb things and she can still say dumb things. So that was kind of the thing that I needed to check and be like, it doesn't have to be a strict straight man, goofy man relationship. They're both very funny.
Yeah.
So it's just about finding what's funny about both of them.
Two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
That's a technical term.
Yeah.
So in terms of Wellington Paranormal and then writing TV and writing movies and things like that, I remember reading a quote, I think Seinfeld said it about writing his sitcom, that the characters, there'd be no hugging, no learning. And if you compare that to Mike Schur, who writes like Parks and Rec and stuff, his characters are always making huge decisions and massive changes in their lives. What do you think what's your preference for characters, and what do you think is important? I'm going to put this to you first, Paul. And yeah, get ready. And in like a TV show, so will we describe Wellington Paranormal as a sitcom?
Yeah, a sitcom.
Yeah. So in the development of those characters, do we want to see them grow over the course of the series, or?
Not really.
Yeah.
I think the comedy's best if you know them. So it's a short form, half-hour comedy, and it's a different story each week. So I think that suits the characters being pretty much the same. So the audience has an expectation as to how they're going to react.
Yeah,
so
totally.
I don't necessarily want to go into backstory too much. There's the odd little mention. Mike starts to sometimes talk about his brother sometimes, which is him talking about his actual brother.
Right.
But not much backstory. But it depends on the show. Like if you watch a show like Girls, for example, that's clearly something where the characters, there's development and it's episodic and there's this ongoing story.
Yeah.
Whereas Wellington Paranormal is, one story each week that's hopefully funny. The characters lend itself to that, so don't change them too much. I think so it depends on the format.
And that's different in the film process, right? You're arcing out the character's kind of journey.
They got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Which is, and you have to have big sort of higher stakes and stuff,
Yeah.
I think, in film, and stretch it out over the...
Just that 90, we made it an 80-minute narrative. I didn't quite get to 90. But, and it was very important to us to kind of look at where they started, what kind of people and issues they had when they started, and where we left them as well. Like, it was very important to us that, yes, they went on a journey of kind of learning and acceptance and understanding compassion and stuff, but they're still absolute kind of nitwits at the end.
Yeah.
And it was very important to us that they started single, ended single. You know,
Yeah.
like things like that of like, okay, this is very important. We don't want
We
them
want
to...
them to change, but not too much.
but in the right way. We don't want a double church wedding and suddenly they're all having babies and they're married. Like, that's not our
Sure.
message.
Yeah.
But to have change, but in the right way.
And was it hard to marry kind of like the drama of like a character's development with the comedy? Did you find yourself in certain drafts leaning too far into the dramatic relationship side of it and then sometimes too far into the comedic side of it? Or did they complement each other?
I feel like it was more in the edit that we played with that.
Right,
You know,
okay.
I feel like we made sure that we had the drama in the
shot
comedy.
a lot of options.
Yeah, we shot a lot of options, and we had a lot of. But we made sure that we had, you know, the big sort of friendship breakup, which is kind of the high point of the drama between our two characters. And then it was
Spoiler.
just kind of. Oh,
You should have seen it already, Mel.
I'm kidding. I'm sort of.
It's on DVD, bro.
Big DVD run. Big DVD run
Big
happening,
DVD.
guys. Fill those
I've got
Christmas
nothing to
stockings.
play a DVD on anymore.
No one can play a DVD, but we're doing a big DVD run.
We got
Big one,
we got
big one.
CDs of the soundtrack. If you guys want a CD?
Do we?
No.
All right. So I'll get you one of
I
those.
got Spotify playlists, man. Yeah, what were we
I
saying?
think that's all right. I think this leads well into our next clip.
Does
which,
it?
Yeah, it does. No, not yet.
Oh.
Then this next clip, do you want to set it up? It's where you've come to tell the family that...
Are you going to do the thing where you tell us what to say?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, no, tell me because
I'm
I don't
just-
know what it is.
I think I know
Do you
what
know
it
what it
is.
is?
I think tell me just say beep if I'm wrong. Okay, then
Okay.
you take it.
Beep. Sorry.
This
This
is a scene in which Mel and Jen, oh my god, in which Mel and Jen turn up to do a job. The job doesn't go great, but the only thing to mention about the scene is that we worked very hard, as I said, for 5 years on and off on the script. But we got to production on this scene and we were like, oh shit, we haven't written it. Like we didn't ever finish writing it. And
It's
we were
about
like,
half a page.
it was
or not
like there was
even
half a page for like a 4-minute scene and like a pivotal scene. So
similar to the playground scene, where it's just literally a description of what we do. And
it's
there
like, yeah,
was
we walk in.
and Mel and Jackie improv on the day.
And so, so this is probably one of our most improvised scenes.
Okay, great. Let's check it out.
Funny and dramatic.
So that's one question I was going to have about that scene is it does have like a comedic escalation in the sense that like you're interrupting the surprise party and then you tell them they're dead and then we find it, then the kids arrive and stuff. So when you're looking at that scene, what are you kind of using to determine is this working? Is it the relationship or is it the comedy or the drama?
Well, it needs to be the big point of their, well, it's just before they have their big breakup, but it's the real turning point for Mel, my character, not that Mel, where she decides that she doesn't want to be in it anymore and she needs to jeopardise what they're doing to kind of get out of it. It's the only way she's going to...
She sabotages the job.
get out of it.
It also was a turning point for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
But then it also needs to be funny because it's a
Yeah.
comedy film. So yeah, it was a tricky one to work out, and it was also a tricky one to edit. Jackie, we had a lot of versions initially that were really full on dramatic. Weren't they?
Yeah, 'cause
Or
it
they were
was-
just really mean or really harsh or something.
Yeah, because it's one of our darker scenes, and it was really important to us that it was that important for the story that we had gone too far in our business, and so but we were getting a lot of script feedback and in the edit of like it's too dark. I think at one point in the edit we had Madeline saying, I remember all that improv you did about it was like a mince pie and ripped the face off. And it's like and the people were just like, no. And,
We
but I
were
was
like,
we've
this
gotta
is hilarious, but,
we thought it was hilarious.
But
So
yeah.
we brought that, but I really pushed to keep the kids. Like people thought the kids made it, and they're my own kids. People
She can't cut her own kids. She cut her husband once, and then we had to get him back for a cash.
Cut him again. But it was really important. I really fought to keep the kids in there because people were like, but it's so dark. I was like, yeah, because they've pushed it too far. They're here today.
We were also really
little
pushing to keep the kids in
Sylvie.
here. No, stay in here. We'll keep the kids in here.
Yeah, it is also like quite a nice button on the scene in a sense of like it really like pushes it right up to its exploding point. And when you're talking about going back and forth in the edit and stuff, that's a question for all of you. And this will be my last question before we're going to go to the audience. So now's the time to panic. Who are you feeding it? Who's feeding into you making these decisions? Like once you get into an edit with something, who's making the final call on this? Obviously, you're in a unique position because you were both directors on the film. But Paul, would you describe yourself as showrunner or?
Yeah, I guess so. Jermaine was out of the country when we went through the edit process, so I had to kind of edit his episodes, and then we'd send them to him. He was in LA, and it was usually a wait till midnight for his notes, and it was like, do we go home? Do we have his notes? And it was usually just as we were out the door, we'd get his notes. But no, it was a really cool process. We had a lot of footage as well, like these guys, and it's always the hardest thing. So our editor had two great editors, Ange Boyd and Tom Eagles, who did Breaker Uppers as well. And they always did a great first cut. So having a really good editor who knows the story, knows the gags to give you a good, basis to work from, and then it's just chipping away until you've got the right scene.
Is there a point where you feel like you've reached maximum capacity with how many different takes or opinions you can have on something? Or are you just kind of like keep absorbing it all? And
You sort of absorb. I mean, our process, obviously, we sort of edited. I'm not sure how long your guys' editing process was, but ours was over sort of a longer time. And there were definitely points where you kind of lose, objectivity. You can't sort of see the scene anymore.
Yeah.
And there were certain scenes that were trickier than others in terms of just
really
getting the tone right, because we wanted to, we had to have that emotion in the film as well, because, you sort of need that to keep people watching. So it was sort of about kind of going away and coming back. Jackie and I would often do, just because we had to keep working as well during the edit, I'd go in for a few days and then Jackie would go in. So sometimes we were together. Oftentimes we'd leave Tom with notes to do, Tom Eagles as well, to do stuff. And then we had a lot of screenings along the way, which were always really good, so we could hear where the laughs were coming.
Yeah, they were really useful because it was mainly like your first question was like who was making the decisions. It was mainly Tom, Madeline and I, like really left to our own devices, and then we'd have these we'd pull friends in every week,
Oh, really?
every week just to the little theatre at Department of Post, and just listen to the laughs, ask some questions. And then, of course, as we got closer and closer, like Ainsley and Georgina and Carthew would send notes, or they'd come and watch it with us if they were in town. So it was great. But it really was the three of us, and sometimes we'd lose sight of it and really need to have another screening. And we'd record the screening so we could go back and hear the laughs and things if we got confused about if people were laughing or not at that joke.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there were always certain things that were always kind of quite strong and always kind of got a laugh. And then there were other things that took a while to just kind of get there. The bathroom scene is a good example in our film, which, was written. We wanted to write this lame bathroom scene where they're doing cocaine and it's not cocaine, it's Ajax. and initially the first cut of that scene was sort of like, it was like it was trying hard to be that scene in the American film.
Yeah,
it
cool
wasn't
Coke
that
scene.
kind
It
of
was awful.
subversive scene.
Awful.
And so it took a lot of sort of editing and ADR and stuff to kind of get it to where it was in the film, which is,
a really
much
dumb,
better place.
silly scene. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, we're going to throw it to questions from the audience. We don't have a roving mic, unfortunately, so you're just going to have to put up your hand and then, great, and yell out.
Hi, Chelsea.
Thanks for coming out to dinner.
Hi, Chelsea.
Hey,
Kristen
Chelsea.
Crayford,
Yeah.
award-winning New Zealand actress.
No, and filmmaker. $5,000
Director?
check.
Yeah.
Director. She won the $5,000.
She got the short
jury
film.
prize.
Chelsea,
Short
She's
film,
not
gonna get the
and
question
she-
out of
she's
it.
right, and her daughter's in it as well.
Chelsea,
It's really
please,
good.
can you stand up
It's
for
really
the
worth
audience to
seeing.
see you, please? Give her a round of applause.
Sorry, Chelsea.
Sorry, Chelsea.
Does that answer your question?
It's just important to know when,
All right, shut up. Let her talk now.
And that's our time.
So I'll just repeat that so everyone can hear. So the question was, how cooked was the script when you went in terms of like, if you knew you were going to improvise, how much of it was set on the page and how much of it were you like, we'll figure this out on the day? Is that right?
We tried to write the funniest script possible, like the funniest scenes possible over 5 years. And we shifted around genres and things went all crazy, we tried to set. And so we tried to have the funniest script possible, apart from for this one, we'd forgotten, or we'd changed it up to the last one, we'd forgotten that we hadn't quite finished it. The montage, just the bit where they're coming in, all of those different clients are coming in, we left that very open. But we tried to have a really solid script that we could then bounce off. So we tried to have the most, prepared script.
So
pretty
you
much.
push that
But also,
process.
Jackie and I are both like, as actors and filmmakers, we like to keep it alive, and we like to bring people on into our world that also like to can pick a camera crew up and go halfway down the street if the location isn't right. It's the kind of that vibe as well. So I think it was definitely cooked. But
it was something to fall back on as
Then we
well,
added all sorts of other things into it, and turned
Sort of a
into a
cake
monster.
that you ice. What would you say?
Well,
Nice metaphor, Mel.
I wouldn't, but
It's sort of a cake, but you
cake,
cook and then you smash it all
would.
up, and then in the edit you put it back together, and then you ice it,
But one thing
I
Madeline
think
and
we've
I
gone
always,
too
Sounds
far
like a
down
kiwi
a hole
cake.
with this metaphor.
and then the grading's the icing.
one thing Madeline and I always did remind ourselves of is like, even though, and I think it's so important myself for filmmaking, like even though we've spent 5 years like really sweating to try and get this script, we might throw the whole thing away on the day if we come up with a better idea. So we're always very pro that of like, we've got the best thing we can to kind of fall back on, or if we need it, but let's just see if we come up with something better.
Best idea on the day.
Yeah, totally.
exactly.
And that might be someone else's idea.
I think that's
Yeah.
actually the best thing too, to not be too precious about what you've been, to not hold on to it too much, because sometimes
this sort of thing.
you can find the scene so funny on the page and then get it standing up, and it just doesn't work, and so you have to find something else.
Great. Change tact. Who's got another question? I've got plenty more if you guys.
Chelsea, any more questions?
Does anyone have any questions for Chelsea?
Put your hand
Let's put it on Chelsea.
Yeah, I'm sick of talking.
Yeah,
do you want
fair
the-
enough.
Do you want this
Stop
mic?
bullying her. Ned, sit down.
It's cool. I'm
Bullying,
gonna start
it's
singing Britney in a second.
Celebrating, Chelsea. Celebrating you.
This is legitimately
20 years, Britney Spears.
Oh,
One
we've
more
got a
time.
Question in the middle.
Great. All right. Hi, how you going? Have you met Chelsea? No. Oh, that's a great question. So the question was, on the scenes that didn't work on the day, were there any patterns you noticed in terms of what the writing was to what was translating as to why they weren't working? Is that the question? Yeah.
It's a really good question.
I guess we kind of maybe discovered that because once we'd cast the film as well, we had read-throughs, made sure we had some rehearsal time with the actors. It was more in that period where we were like, oh, it just doesn't sound like that's how you'd say it. So we'd rewrite it for the actor or get them to improv and rewrite it for them. So then it was like, oh no, this isn't working. But in production...
It was more just lines and things here and there, I guess. And again, it's like you just want options of gags, and like you might have a more harsh gag, or you might have a more light, silly gag, and you don't know until you get into the edit what that scene's going to need. I feel like there were certain scenes that were written maybe as a more emotional scene that ended up being more funny, and vice versa. Like the emotional high points kind of changed and stuff in the edit. I learned a lot about writing in the edit.
Yeah,
to
the
be
edit's
honest.
always the most useful because you go, oh, that's what we should have done.
Yeah. We didn't need all that, yeah. So I learned a lot, and especially coming from a background in writing for TV, I learned a lot about writing film in the edit and watching Tom work and just seeing how much space.
Did you guys do many pickups for Breaker Operas?
We did 3 days.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
And did you do many pickups for Wellington Paranormal?
We
or?
could only afford like about 2 hours.
Okay.
No, it was about a day. We had a day of pickups.
corn?
Yeah, the corn.
Was the
The
corn,
corn didn't behave very well
No.
sometimes. So we went into
The fake corn.
The fake corn. So we built the cornfield again in studio.
That's right.
And we had to just shoot slightly wider shots that we just didn't achieve on the night.
Oh, wow.
Just because of time. So.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey.
Hey, Kerry.
No,
Well done on all your achievements.
this is Kerry Wakia, everybody.
Kerry Wakia, producer of Wadu. I think a big round of
Flat 3,
applause.
I don't know if you...
Incredible work over the last few
producer,
years.
incredible work ethic.
Now living in Taranaki, I believe.
That's right.
But used to live on my street. We used to be neighbours, remember?
Oh my God.
Oh, she sent the letter to Kiki. Do tell us if it arrived.
Guys, I reckon you can catch up off stage.
Right.
You guys talk a little bit more about your co-directing relationship.
We didn't have a plan going in at all. We were so it was so manic in pre-production, trying to be in all the different departments at once. We were lucky to do like a little tester for the Film Commission, which some of the footages actually made the cut.
A premiere pathways, a proof of concept.
Yeah, proof of concept. So it was a kind of chance for us to test out that relationship and how, and we didn't really put any rules on it. We just sort of wanted to see what organically happened, and it sort of, whatever the scene was doing, kind of made whatever we were doing, we just work it out from there. So if Jackie was acting more in the scene, I'd direct more and be with camera more, and vice versa, eh?
Yeah. But it was so helpful that we had written for 5 years, so we knew it inside out. So it wasn't like we had different visions, I think that was really crucial for us, hey?
Yeah, and we were going so fast, so that was crucial because I knew that Jackie would know exactly what I would want from the actors because we knew what we wanted from the scene. And
there was no time for conflict, and we're both pretty good about that, because we didn't bring a huge amount of ego, we just really wanted to make a really funny, good film. And so there was no time. If we disagreed about something, we were pretty good at it. Just going,
yeah, we just like,
I'll do it. We'll
Can
do
we
it
get
your
both?
way.
Ainsley, we've got time for both? We'll get both.
You'll get both,
Action.
or let's just do it your way, and then tomorrow maybe I'm in credit and we can do something my way, or we
Let's
resolve
just do it
things.
your way, and then I'll slag you off tomorrow
Then
about
you
it.
slag me off and I've made a mistake about that,
and then I'll
you
give
can
you
make a
shit about
mistake.
that, and then yeah.
So that was quite good to be able to resolve things very quickly because it meant that we got to be on camera more, which was our absolute good.
Essentially, you've got two selfish actors that know that they're cutting into any of their special time on screen. So we didn't want to fight too much.
So just do it your way, do it your way.
Do it your way, fuck it, action.
Perfect.
Fun times.
Yeah, friends.
Yeah.
I think Jackie was walking
just
around
repeat
her
the question.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Where did the idea for the Breaker-Uppers come from?
I think Jackie was just walking around her kitchen in a negligee, weren't you?
No. Madeline has all sorts of ideas and images that pop into her head at night, I'm assuming.
And I'm going to just broaden this question as well down for you guys in terms of
Where did you guys come
what
up
do
with
you
the
do
breaker?
when
I
you
was
have...
in a negligee as well. When I had
It was you in the negligee.
Negligee.
But I
Such
do
a
think
great
that is a really interesting question to ask. What do you do when you reach a writer's block or where you feel like you're drained of ideas? And is there a pattern for where you get your best ideas? How does that all fucking work?
That is a big question. It's very different and also a very big question, Ella.
Yeah, well, break it down and deal with it.
Well, I can see we've got 1 minute 13 left, so let's do that.
Don't you ignore that time, or...
No, I'll answer this question. It's a very quick answer. I came up with the idea, the concept of wouldn't it be funny if there was a business, if you could outsource having to do your own, so you didn't have to do your own breakups. That was it. I thought,
Did you pitch this to your husband?
I reckon you could have done that quicker.
I did tell him about it. We have a very
Honey,
jovial, solid
here's a
relationship.
crazy
I
idea,
don't think and so the idea was, the initial idea was, I reckon people would pay a lot of money to not have to do those awful breakups themselves. And then I thought, well, what about a company? Like, what about a company who does the breakups for people? And then I rang Madeline and said, I've come up with an idea potentially for a film. Do you want to write it and star in it together? And so we, did that. That was quick.
People
Yeah,
just
that was
ghost
quick.
now. They won't even pay for break-uppers. They just ghost.
I know. We wouldn't actually be able to run it as a business anymore.
Internationally, what do people think of New Zealand comedy?
They think New Zealand comedy is hot.
Yeah, and
That's what
funny,
a lot of people
it's funny
say.
that
Yeah.
we have to prove internationally that we're funny before New Zealanders think we're funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
like New Zealanders, if you read the staff comments, which I don't recommend, it's a very
I'm
classic.
sorry for writing those.
Yeah.
It was a dark moment in my life.
We're all just like Kiwi comedy's an
Negative.
oxymoron and
Yeah.
stuff. And then suddenly when we start achieving overseas, it's like, oh, no, they're good.
Do you think that attitude is changing? I think it's
I
changing.
think it's
I think it's
Great,
changing.
yeah. So, partly thanks to you guys as well. It's
And you
really
guys.
All right, sorry guys, I'm just going to move us. We've got time
Front
for
me,
one
okay.
last question. So we'll go from front here.
Hey.
Hey, Katie. Department of Post, incredible.
Worked on our film.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you again to the
Colourist.
Department
Award-winning
of Post.
colorist.
All right, guys, look at the time now. So that was a question for you guys about how do you keep it fresh?
How do you keep it fresh? I think having two great characters you can put into any situation, and each week having a very new situation. So we were lucky enough that we're using genre, and it worked for the X-Files for 11, 12 seasons.
Yeah.
So I think that was the key, putting very quintessential New Zealand characters into new situations each week. We think made it feel fresh.
You might have to get into the romance though at some point.
Yeah.
Eh? If you go 11 seasons, you might
simmering,
have to.
there's going to be a
Season
moment.
3.
Yeah.
Season 3, that's when we'll jump the shark. And they'll be in the cop car jumping the shark. kissing.
Oh, wow.
All right, guys, I'm sorry, but that's all the time we have, I'm afraid. So a big round of applause for our panelists.
This session is presented by post-production company Department of Post. The Big Screen Symposium is brought to you by Script to Screen and Janda. We would like to thank our event partners, the New Zealand Film Commission, New Zealand On Air, Images and Sound, Screen Auckland, and Stage and Screen Travel Services. Voiceover was provided by Samantha Dukes and music by Poddington Bear.